Boxing Day will feel like a sober affair in Wales, with new restrictions starting 6 a.m. the morning after Christmas. There'll be a rule of 6 for groups going to places like pubs and cinemas. It'll be back to masks, table service only, and supplying contact details. The First Minister said he was striking before the Omicron storm.
We are now entering a really serious phase of the pandemic. Wales will reopen after Christmas, but in order to do so safely, we have to do everything we can to go on protecting ourselves and taking care of others.
You said yourself in your statement that we're in a different position this year than last year. Many more people have been vaccinated, and it seems the Health Security Agency have found Omicron is less severe than other forms of COVID. So don't the restrictions you're imposing on Wales now look like an overreaction?
It really is a misunderstanding of the position we are facing to think that if Omicron is less severe than Delta, that solves the problem. If Omicron was only half as severe as Delta, because of the extra speed at which it is transmitted, that would buy you 48 hours before you see those numbers and numbers of people going to hospital climb to the very steep levels that we have seen.
As we've seen before during COVID, the UK nations are taking different tacks, with new rules for venues in Wales and Scotland, and in Northern Ireland, nightclubs have just been told they must shut on Boxing Day. But in England, people are being given more freedom, not less. Quarantine for those with COVID has been cut from 10 days to a week.
People that are self-isolating, as long as they test negative through a lateral flow test on day 6 and day 7, taken 24 hours apart, they can leave isolation.
The Health Secretary says our best defence is the booster programme. But nurses giving jabs at this neighbourhood centre in Oxford say lots of people still haven't had their first shot.
Today we've had 2 walk-ins that are first doses, so we've gave them all a round of applause when they arrived. That's the sort of people we want to catch.
And what kind of things do they say about why they're only now coming for their first and second dose?
Well, one of the chaps we had today, he said that he just didn't have time before. He said that he was working from home, he thought he was safe.
For some taking up the booster, it's to try to avoid a second bad dose of COVID.
Me and my partner actually had COVID earlier this year. We actually found out on New Year's Day last year, so that was a lovely thing to see the new year in.
It's the way of protecting us, it's as much as we can. So you've got to believe the scientists and go with it.
When it comes to Omicron and its potential impact, London is seen as the canary in the coal mine. And here, case rates are causing real concern, with Omicron driving a record rise since the start of the month. So far, hospitalisations haven't increased as sharply, but there has been a rise and it's still early. Doctors are worried.
We're much better prepared this time round than we have been in the past. We've got good knowledge about this disease now, we've got good PPE, and we've done it before. We've also got new drugs which appear to be effective. So we're ready, but this is going to be a big challenge if we have a big surge at this time of year in the NHS.
We're giving more boosters and third doses than ever, but we've now recorded more daily infections than ever before too. For most of us, Christmas is on, but don't rule out fresh restrictions in the new year.
Jane Deeth reporting. Well, Adam Price is the leader of Plaid Cymru and joins us now from Cardiff. Thanks very much for coming on the programme, Adam Price. To be honest, I'm a little bit confused by the rules in Wales, because on one hand, if you are caught sneaking to the office to work there rather than working from home, you get a 60 quid fine, but you can still go to the pub, albeit in a group of 6 people.
Yeah, I think in general terms, Matt, I think the Welsh Government has yet again, exhibited the same kind of cautious approach, which sadly lacking in the case of the UK government, but which has had very, very deep and broad public support in Wales. But you're absolutely right, Matt, to point out that there's a danger there, because one of the regulations that they brought forward that we definitely don't support is the idea of fining workers to go to work.
This is too draconian, isn't it? And also unenforceable. Yeah,
and completely unfair, because as the TUC themselves in Wales said, fining workers who would be effectively compelled by their employers to go to work, that's the wrong approach. You should be fining the employers for forcing the employees to go to work. And, it's absolutely important that the Senedd is recalled so that we can strike down this regulation, because it does risk, Matt, that broad public support which has been so important in ensuring that the public health protection measures that have been stronger in Wales have been effective, because they have the support.
Right, because it looks absolutely ridiculous. On one hand, people can say, well, hang on a minute, the people at number 10 are getting away with Christmas parties a year ago, and we are fined or could be fined for showing up at work. This will make a laughing stock, will it not, or could it not, of the measures that are trying to be imposed?
That's the real danger, and you're absolutely right. I think one of the backdrops to this whole pandemic has been the nature of trust in our leaders and decision makers, and obviously that has been battered by the revelations over the Downing Street parties. And in Wales, there's been a stronger level of support for the public health measures, precisely because we've had better decision making by a government that enjoys that broad public support. And so we're appealing to the Welsh Government, don't throw that away. It's the backdrop, isn't it, Matt, to the wider problem of the unvaccinated, that many people...
And I was
going to
ask
you
about that. Is it fair?
Because they don't believe in authority anymore. They don't believe in anything that anyone tells them, largely because of collapsing trust in government and authority.
But hang on a minute, quite apart from the Westminster government, is it fair that society as a whole is being locked down, not by decree necessarily, but by fear, because essentially there are 5.5 million people in this country, many of whom choose not to get vaccinated. They don't have good medical reasons for not doing so. They just don't want to do it. And that is a problem that we all, the rest of society, have to face.
I think it's absolutely right to say that, as the Archbishop of Canterbury has recently said, that vaccination is a moral issue, that it's a civic duty to get vaccinated. I think President Biden has even gone too far as to say that it's a patriotic duty. So that's a very, very important message.
But should you be doing, as a politician, should you be doing more to call out those people who've refused to get vaccinated?
Well, I think there's a danger if you call people idiots, if you demonize them, then that doesn't put you in a very good position to actually persuade them, does it? Because then people just batten down the hatches. Then you're not creating a relationship, a dialogue with those people you need to persuade. You're actually pushing them further and further into the arms of the anti-vaxxers. Many people who haven't been vaccinated, they're not anti-vaxxers per se. They're hesitant. They're not fully persuaded. Right. They've been on the receiving end of all the misinformation from some of the big tech.
Yes, indeed. But there needs to be much clearer targeting of messaging, doesn't there? Very quickly, you've got to be much more precise here.
Yes, people have said, look, we need a wartime effort. Well, let's have some of those public information films that were so effective in getting the message across that, yes, it is important to get vaccinated. And to be unvaccinated, in some ways, yes, it may be a personal choice, but it has an impact on others. And it's a selfish choice if you are risking other people's lives.
Got to leave it there. Andrew Price, thank you very much indeed.